Hi there! Today we have a special release. We will tell you about the most uncompromising house we could find. This is, without a doubt, such a substantial den, which will be very interesting to watch about. This type of garage is the ultimate dream of every man and woman. It is a showroom house.
Here, minimalism and a vast space are truly at the forefront. Speakers with a very rich history.
This is extremely expensive and costs a lot.
You feel like the real head of the village?
Usually when talking about architecture, about the image of a project, we try to reveal it somehow, make a drone shot, describe the volumetric and planning solutions in words. Here, the composition truly speaks for itself, that is, the main expressive feature, the primary focus of the entire house is this barn, which lies atop the volume of such a stylobate base, in which public functions are located, and the upper level itself is nothing other than a singular primary bedroom. We'll talk about it in the interior a bit later. It's worth paying attention to such an obvious thing, but still very important, like these thin pillars. They blend in very well with the surrounding landscape in a forest context. That is exactly why they are made in such a dark shade, to emphasize the blending with nature and not to stand out. Moreover, they're filled with concrete, solving the technical component. Another super non-obvious solution, which we've just started applying in the first projects, which is implemented here. Now I'll definitely be calm about our projects. So the idea is the absence of a central drainage system. That is, water from the top barn, from its slopes, is simply drops out to the lower levels, to the ground, and due to the developed root system, because of the place's context, this doesn't cause problems. Often, one of the criteria for good architecture is not only its facades, finishes, materials, volumetric and planning solution, but also how we see the interior. And here's actually another cool feature, in my opinion. This is the panoramic glazing of a huge garage where the homeowner, an architect, stores his car collection. What's an architectural cantilever? An architectural cantilever, whether fully outrigged without bearing or with thin pillars and a large extension over a cliff, creates a levitation effect. And in this house, to further emphasize this effect in its most comprehensive form, the architect also devised a glass mirror insert, which entirely detaches the volume of the upper barn from the lower stylobate part. From this perspective, another interesting component of a house as a whole good architecture is the absence of a clear linear structure. The house is on a relief, and therefore there was an opportunity to play with the interior spaces outside of such a standard floor-by-floor structure. That is, we have one floor level of the living room. Below it, we have a ground floor where the technical rooms and the cinema room are located. We have a double height space of the living room, which partially extends into the space of the upper barn. It is exactly such interplay that gives this kind of compositional completeness and non-triviality, giving the interior space a much more twisted, attractive and diverse viewpoints and angles that you want to discover and better understand. When we work on our projects, especially when it comes to more comprehensive urban planning examples like townships, we strive to create certain objects that serve as an architectural dominant, completing the perspective of the neighborhood. And this architect's house is also not located by accident, and its most expressive part, this cantilever barn, is located along the entrance axis to the village. And what also became a feature, you could really say it's an expo house, sort of a landmark actually in a way. It has literally become an eye catcher for clients. And just when people drive into the township to meet the architect, they immediately see that modern architecture can be incredibly striking and attract the attention of everyone around them.
This house belongs to Yuri Kulikov. He is an architect and he is actually the owner. The materials used on the facade here are very simple. It's just ordinary pine that has been painted black. And it's also of varying widths and thicknesses, resulting in an interesting, irregular facade structure. Basically, this house has been standing for 2 years and nothing happens with this board. And there's a cool feature here that we have ordinary anthracite-colored corrugated sheeting on our roof. Yuri told an interesting story that at first he wanted to trouble himself, like in the pictures on Pinterest, to lay a beautiful standing seam panels. But the material started to undulate and he said, well, just take this stuff to the barn and put the corrugated sheet on the house. And corrugated sheet is an excellent solution, works very well. And when it is bulge a bit ahead, it turns out that you can do without storm drains at all, which is also unexpected, so to speak, and how simple solutions can work effectively. The game of volumes distinctly sets modern architecture apart from the traditional, and it's not merely about adorning facades. The entire house, the building's layout, is palpably felt. It's clear from the outside. The exclusivity of the layout starts right from the entrance because there is no grand entrance here. There are actually just garage doors here that go up. We can go directly to the garage. Such a garage is indeed a dream because look how many retro cars are here. This is incredibly cool. It's fascinating that they are not confined in some enclosed space with artificial light. There is panoramic glazing with a breathtaking view of the forest, with a spectacular view of the neighborhood. And this grants a special value and a unique charm to all these cars, which can also be admired as you drive up to your house. Here we have an invisible main entrance to the house. Let's go inside and see how our interior has been furnished. Right from the main entrance, we enter a large, spacious living room and the main volume of our house, which I personally think is very correct and extremely cool because a person immediately understands the entire space and therefore feels psychologically comfortable staying in such a house. And it's very interesting here because now it's such a two-level space with exceptionally high ceilings. But what's very thoughtful is that these supporting pillars, they are not just simple ties to keep the structure stable. In the future, if necessary, it will be possible to build up a second floor here and make additional bedrooms. Such a transformable architecture, and it's very cool that this has been forethought. There will be no need to do anything additional to implement this. The living room itself has a very unusual interior, a very unusual furniture. Starting with the fact that there is no TV here as the central piece around which all the furniture is arranged. There are several points of attraction here. This fireplace, a piano. Around this actually the whole space is built. Very delightful room. I'm sure it's super comfortable to spend evenings here. And in general, with large glazing, there is always a lot of light here, even despite the fact that this location is surrounded by a pine forest of a significant height. Often, in such classic architecture, enveloped by such a dense forest, there is not enough natural light penetrating inside the interior spaces. There is no such problem here. Contrariwise, there is a feeling of 100% freedom here. I also want to highlight a very important detail that a lot of people argue about in the comments under our videos. It's about heated floors during cold winters. And now we have -20 outside the window. Here, the underfloor heating is actually working, and despite the huge panoramic glazing, it remains exceptionally comfortable and warm here. It should be noted that this floor is not overheated. It is a comfortably warm temperature here. It is quite pleasant to walk on the warm tiles and everything functions properly. No frost or precipitation on the glass surfaces. Therefore, underfloor heating is able to be used with panoramic glazing without a convector. And for this entire heated floor to work effectively, it is usually divided into 2 circuits. But the point is that we have a warmer contour along the edge by the glazing, which can heat up to 70 degrees, and in the center, the floor for heating the tiles, just so it's pleasant to walk on the stone floor. From this side, we have actually such a composition of stair flights. It's very beautiful that they are all single flight, there are no intersections, and they are completely open. And as concrete structures, they are not finished with anything. Such honest architecture. Each level here leads to a completely separate functional area. Right now we are in the living room. 1 level down we have the kitchen. 1 level up there are the hypothetical children's bedrooms that could be built here. And on the very top floor, we have the primary bedroom. Let's take a look at everything in order. Here we have a small gallery from the personal collection of the house owner. Interesting painting, you can look at it as you walk by in the corridor. Walking up the stairs, many smart tricks have already been used here as well. For example, to further enhance the effect of a vast open space, we can simply look downwards as the perspective gradually opens right onto the basement floor. And this effect is further enhanced by a window located in our roof. The contour of this window replicates the opening of our stairwell. And this falling light reflects very beautifully on our exposed concrete. And here, the transparency and airiness of the construction, it works well for the entire interior.
I built it specifically in this place at the entrance to the township. Some people like it, some don't. And of course, we wanted to showcase the constructive possibilities, what we can do. This is a very complex design in this house, very difficult.
Where does the love for barns for such Scandinavian architecture come from?
This is not love, this is a necessity. We live in Siberia after all. We are supposed to have such roofs for various reasons. The main reason is that there's quite a lot of snow.
Now we've moved up, so to speak, into the captain's cabin of this house, the primary bedroom. This is the very spectacular barn that levitates above the surrounding space, and everything about it is interesting. Starting from its layout structure, the classic primary bedroom inherently implies a dressing room right here. This isn't a kitchen, don't be confused, it implies a bathroom. As you see, this is a clean space and the bathroom is delicately hidden and is embedded in such a glass flask which is located at the end and thus don't split this space. Here at the head of everything is minimalism and a large open air-filled space. The lightness that is present in the architectural image of the house required, to put it mildly, non-trivial engineering solutions. And this house cannot be called a canonical stone one, because the entire upper barn is a solid metal structure that functions with the help of trusses hidden precisely in the side walls. And they form a solid structure out of it. We actually don't have any kind of floor support element. And all this together functions as a single structure, which allows the house to have such remarkable lightness and avoid any supermassive pillars and thick slabs. Special attention should be paid to the engineering component, both of the house and of this particular room. We are in a very large space and there is no supply and exhaust ventilation in it. This is due to 2 things. First, there's a huge volume of air here. It's not just that there is no such expediency in constant air exchange, but the second is the presence of such the shutter. We are also actively using them in our projects now, and one is in this corner and the other diagonally in the opposite. By opening 2 of them at the same time, you can effectively enhance the room's ventilation. In most private houses, for instance, skylight is typically represented by the presence of dormer windows. Here too, this technique has gone a bit further, and in fact we have a large panoramic glazing that serves as a source of natural light for this beautiful winter garden in absolutely systematized cache pot. They are not randomly placed pots. This is a specially created element which zones effectively the stair group from the main room.
I also wanted to point out the functional layout of the house. It's very specific. It's just like it was perfectly tailored for you.
Perfectly tailored, perfectly suited for one person to live. Laziness rules this house. Everything here is tailored for laziness. It's no coincidence that the kitchen is at the very far end from the bedroom. Because if you want to snack in the evening, then either laziness will overcome you, or by the time you walk back and forth, what you've eaten will have turned into something other than fat.
It must be said that when you have enough space to properly place furniture, it's very cool to resort to some non-standard, non-apartment solutions. And a great example of this is the wardrobe, because if it were some kind of apartment or a condensed space, we would definitely have made some kind of mezzanine 7.5 feet here so that winter boots could easily be thrown in. We would definitely furnished it all down to the bottom here to put the slippers in place. Actually, all this is unnecessary. It's inconvenient to use. The most advantageous is the system as it is now. Here is the minimum necessary space to hang everything that is needed on the hanger. And here indeed the most convenient and practical thing for any wardrobe is precisely such a console that has numerous pull-out drawers, and you can simply store underwear in one place, t-shirts in another, and just walking around and knowing exactly where you keep everything, it's simply more convenient to use than a standard wardrobe. Well, this is the most important perspective that opens up and the most important view that we have in our house. Here we are at the level of the trees, standing tall above all the surrounding houses. The view opens onto the road, and right here you can place a chair and count how many white, how many black cars have come in for today. Overall, you feel really cool as the true head of the neighborhood.
In many private houses, for one reason or another, there are basement floors. This house is no exception. This is due to the relief. And this area cannot be called some boring basement area, as there are many very interesting rooms here, functionally and in terms of space organization. For example, here is a truly unique room. They are currently listening to music there now, and we will go there a bit later. Therefore, we will then move further into the next area. This is the kitchen area, where the main cooking activities in the house take place. Even in such a walkthrough scenario, it's very important to create some memorable and interesting accents. And this is the wall of memories, where each shell represents a place where the house owner has been. And here is the laundry area. Behind the door on the left, as the homeowner said, is the most important room. This is a closet. That is, the house will be truly clean and well maintained if there's nothing extra in it. Passing by striking paintings, we see the space, its organization. It is very important to note that the furniture here is not simply on the floor, it is detached. It's like a reason to expand, to visually enhance the space, and a way to make cleaning more comfortable. Functionally, the kitchen is divided into 3 zones. Storage area with the refrigerator, freezer, equipment, wine cabinet. The second zone is the island zone. It is represented here by a separate standing table. It should be noted that this is a highly multifunctional area where you can comfortably sit and utilize it as the primary dining area for enjoying snacks. Yesterday we spent the whole evening here. I assure you it's very convenient. You don't get tired at all. And at the same time, it is a functional area that is very convenient for cooking. That is ergonomics, height, space, all well calibrated. The third kitchen area is the main cooking functional area. As an axiom in any good kitchen, this is a large, expansive panoramic window, so you don't stand and look at the wall. Here it is resolved in its best appearance. We see a window, beyond which there is both light and an interesting space of the house's inner courtyard.
There is a stereotype that a black house, especially one made of wood, is considered very gloomy, and then it will also rot.
This is also due to the fact that we are in the forest. Just look at light house and at dark house. Here, the dark house fits in quite well, but this particular one, in my honest opinion, is completely out of place. So, it is clear to me that a house in the forest must be dark. If I build a house in Miami, right by the ocean, then I will indeed make it entirely white. Definitely. Why? Because it will heat up less. And secondly, it's historically so. Well, yes, coastal architecture.
I would also like to add that it's probably not very functional to have the kitchen not on the same level as the entrance to the house, meaning it's located in the basement. However, a sense of privacy is only achieved here, where we have a small inner courtyard opposite a retaining wall, and it's actually very cozy to be here and spend evenings with friends. Because there is a certain level of intimacy that simply cannot be achieved at ground level when we have huge panoramic windows and a person is open to the entire surrounding space. Therefore, indeed, it's an absolutely custom solution, but it works. A couple more words about the kitchen itself. I also really appreciate that it's quite custom here. There's a lot of space, so there are no upper lockers, no plinths, which one could say that we've actually lost 7 inches of usable space in the cabinets here. Everything is aesthetically pleasing, but at the same time practical, because there is a lot of space and everything fits. Here in this corner, we also have a boiler room. I don't know, probably shouldn't say too much about it. I will only point out how correctly it is plumbed. That is, many people in boiler rooms display some copper pipes that connect all this. This is actually just for show-off, because the correct way is to insulate them with a special material designed specifically to prevent any heat loss. And this boiler room, I'll tell you guys, at first glance is constructed very correctly and energy efficiently. Special attention should indeed be paid to the laundry area, which is located behind this tinted partition. Notice how beautifully the lighting on the washing machines looks. They almost transform into a piece of art in such an entourage. Well, thanks to such an interesting solution, it's not just some functional room that you want to quickly enter and throw your clothes in and to leave faster. Here, actual art objects hang on the walls. There's an irregular custom sink, and this aesthetic is present in every detail, in every, even the most utilitarian room. It's a real pick-me-up. Another question about, let's say, hobbies. In this house, it is specially for you, and there are no, for example, saunas, steam rooms, and spa complexes, which are typical to have in all luxurious houses. But there is indeed a music room here, I would say.
Which is not typical to do in premium houses. They don't even understand, because it costs a lot. This is really expensive. For me, the bathhouse is proletarian fun. I'm not interested in the sauna. It's true.
There are many allegories on what makes the house's heart. For some, it's the kitchen, for others, the living room. It seems to me, in this house, the music room is the main attraction. Speakers with a very rich history, all the necessary equipment for one's own band, including a drum kit, keyboards, playback instruments. All this allows one to be here and directly receive an almost meditative pleasure from listening to music, which is also facilitated by the proper acoustics. And of course, at the heart of the house, its most important place is the chair, which truly stands as the main focus of the sound from these amazing speakers. Friends, at this point, I'd like to conclude our review of this amazing house. Write in the comments if you liked it, subscribe to our channel, and I'll continue listening to music.